Friends, how are you doing? It's Monday. The market was closed today. Happy Memorial Day. Let's get right into what we're talking about here. So, just a heads up, I want to warn everyone, we could be a battle tomorrow in the market because Trump just delayed tariffs on the EU. Good. The market's probably going to like that. Futures are still not coming in. I was trying to make this video as late as I could, but we're still not seeing futures at this moment. And then tomorrow, we've got durable good orders, essentially inflation stuff coming out tomorrow. So, consumer confidence, all that kind of stuff. So we could have a fight in the market tomorrow. I really I'm expecting start off good because of the tariff situation, and then later on when the Fed start talking here, it could kind of sink. So we'll see what happens. It could be a back and forth day, but a good day to do some swing trading. So let's get right into Palantir here and talk about what is going on with Palantir. So, obviously I think there's people that are in this ball camp of they still believe in Palantir. They still think there's meat left on the bone to get in with profit right now. And then there's people saying that this is going to fall apart. This is going to go back to a $20, $30, $40 stock, and you are ridiculous for putting your money into this right now. And I completely get everyone's feelings on both ends of that spectrum right now. So, trying to break down what we're seeing right now with Palantir, you've got, Dan Ives is putting a lot on the line here, saying that he believes that Palantir is going to be $1 trillion market cap here sooner than we think here in the coming years. Okay, great. Now we're seeing, these articles just come out every week now where they're talking about Palantir is going to be, having a stock split here in the future. There's a lot more to come. And I think there's a lot, to me, there's a lot more argument right now to say that Palantir is in a really good situation of more growth coming here. So, with my, here's my steady calendar. If you can understand this, let it sink in. I know this is very high tech, but, essentially the road to 180, can we get to 180 by October? Now that sounds like a lot, and it is. Palantir at this point is completely overpriced. You're buying into Q4 of 2025 at this point for what it could be. By then, are we going to be $1 billion quarterlies? Is this going to be reporting $1 billion quarterlies by then, or very close to that? Probably very close, if anything. But we've achieved 110. We're in the 130s. We've hit that. So now we're sitting in this position of 120s, low 120s at this point. But we could get to 130 probably very easily at this point. Once again. Now summer, can we get to 150 by summer? I think there's obviously a better situation of 150 from the summer going into the later months of the year here, and it's a situation of look at this right here, because the quarterlies that just came out with Palantir, they were great, they were fantastic, but Palantir has just recently locked up just a small handful of deals too that weren't even they were not even on these Q1s for 2025 so far. This NATO deal was not on there. They just got another government contract here about 2-3 weeks ago at this point. They're working on another deal with tech companies right now. And two, I think one thing that needs to be said here with, the situation at hand with where Palantir's at right now is that they essentially they're in the government's pocket. They are, they're working for the government, and I do think I really do think that with this Golden Dome situation that is occurring, that's happening from everything we can tell, it's happening here in the United States, it's happening in North America, it's going to be all through North America. Okay. So with that, Palantir already having huge, probably some of the biggest defense contracts with our government, they're obviously going to have a place in that in that deal, and it's going to tentacle off into a lot of other, deals that will go with that. So I would suspect that Palantir will keep achieving deals here, and Palantir will find business with the government more, and they will find business like they are still outside of, just companies in general, finding them. So it's a situation as long as Palantir keeps bringing in money, keeps bringing these deals, I don't think that 150 is that crazy because of what we've seen so far. Yes, it's overpriced. You're buying into the futures like crazy at this point. I mean, we're well past buying into like Q2, Q3 of 2025 here with quarterlies. You're probably buying in somewhere in Q2, 3 of 2026 here. because the growth expectation is so ridiculous right now in Palantir. If they keep coming out with quarterlies where they're hitting 20, 30, now we're pretty much in the 40s right now, we're rounded up here, of 40% on each, growing 40% on top of each quarterly. This is why you're seeing the stock price rise in such a high position. And two, I think there's a lot of FOMO. There's a lot of, you got Alex Karp, who's out there shaking hands, looking for business, looking to be one of the biggest new tech companies of this generation, in this movement right now with where tech is going. So there's a lot going on with Palantir to make a lot of people believe that it's going to keep achieving new numbers, new deals, more bigger revenue quarterlies, and by the end of this year, more than likely they will probably break into $3 billion for the whole year in revenue. I mean, they're very close, and they're probably going to keep moving up here in revenue. It's very short in the year. We're very new in the year here so far, so there's probably a strong argument to say that stuff is coming. Now, the negative, and why I talk about the negative, and why I've said, why do you hate Palantir? Because I don't hate Palantir. I think if you know me, that's not the case here. But I still see people saying, Palantir is just, it's a overpriced company. It's going to go back down. It's going to sell off, in a year or so, or something can happen here sooner. People are going to get caught up in it. Listen, one thing we know, that there's certain, to talk about this negative situation, what we'll call it, and this is you, that's totally fine. Everyone makes their money different ways on the market, betting for stuff and betting against it. So, some of the unsafest stocks that I've seen that people can be a part of is probably the EV market. The EV market, very dangerous. Cannabis market, very dangerous. Probably healthcare, because there's so many of them and they go up and down, and they have no problem with just going bankrupt. So those are dangerous stocks to be a part of. Now, obviously, too, the fourth one with that are tech companies. There's plenty of tech companies that you can go find that are $1, $2, maybe $10. Now, a lot of them, they're not even making quarterlies, okay? And tech is hot right now. Everyone wants tech. Now, we've seen tech companies in the past find great avenues of revenue, find avenues of extreme growth in, pockets of time. Palantir's not the first here, but still keeping on, before I go into positive, still keeping on negative here, I get why people are at this price range with Palantir to go, I don't want anything to do with this. It is way too hot. It is way too expensive. And I cannot take a chance on this, selling off to under even $100. I don't want to get caught up in this. I get that argument 100%. And yes, too, I will say this, we've seen tech companies do that in the past, where the well runs dry. Okay, we have seen that. We've seen tech companies just boom, 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 annihilate quarterlies, like boom, and then like one quarterly gets missed, and you're like, well, that's odd, and then boom, another one, and then a third, and boom, the panic is on, and you're just seeing sell off. So we've seen tech stocks do that, and there's tech stocks right now that, and that's one, I don't want to, hate to say this, but, that's kind of what we're hoping SoundHound's not going to turn out to be here. We're hoping SoundHound keeps finding growth in what they are reporting with this new revenue trend, so I hope they keep growing here. But that is somewhat of kind of what we're talking about right now. But SoundHound hasn't even found nowhere close to what Palantir is bringing in money wise. So Palantir, going into the positive with that negative, and that's the comments I'm seeing, that's the fear out there, and I completely get it 100%. But Palantir is almost, to me, it's like this like golden Uno card, where it has so much going for it that it's hard to see the negative and the bad situations that could occur here with Palantir, because A of all, I really do think this makes a difference, is that, Palantir is in it's in the car right now with this administration. Alex Karp is shaking hands with Trump. He is in the administration. They've been in the administration. They were in the Biden administration. Now they're in the Trump administration, and they're still getting government defense contracts. And now with this Golden Dome situation that's happening, this almost $200 billion deal that's probably going to keep growing here. Palantir, I mean, imagine if they were even to get another, just like some kind of $5 billion, $4 billion, $3 billion deal, out of X amount of years with that, that would grow the company even more. And it would be tremendous. So Palantir still has plenty of, roots that it can attach itself to with even our government, what's going on right now with what they're about to do here. It's happening regardless. It's going to happen. So Palantir is very much in this place of a movement. It's in this place of it's still finding deals. It's going to continue to find deals. And Alex Karp has talked about this more than once, where he's talked about in interviews where he said, listen, we have not sent out a Salesforce team. Like 90% of our business has come to us because of what we have focused on with our product, with who we align ourselves with customer basis. People come to us. Business comes to us. We have very seldomly went out and found business. And we still have that in the back of our pocket. So you could see too somewhere in the coming years where Palantir could, align the Salesforce and start going looking for more deals too. But Palantir, this is a company, 2-3 years ago, almost 3 years ago at this point, was sitting around, $5, $7, $10 on a really good day, and that was very rare. Now they're busier than ever, more money coming in than ever, money in the bank, able to really position themselves in what's coming here, build a company, build their brand, build their software, and you're seeing that 100%. So to me, I find it very hard to go against what Palantir has going for them right now. And, I know I'm not really focusing on a stock price because to me, Palantir is going to continue in this range anywhere from 115 to 130. I think that's probably going to be your ballpark position with Palantir right now. I could easily see it selling off to like 110, 115. Anything under that will be very hard, and the market will have to find extreme devastation for that to happen. Not that couldn't happen, but that's always a possibility with the market. But right now, we're not seeing that at the moment. So Palantir, if we can get these moments of weeks in the market out of months, however it happens here, where, we see trends in AI stocks again, in the market runs, Palantir will keep chipping away at these new levels. So 130, it's not going to be hard to get back to this 130 level. If we get to 140 here with Palantir, price-wise, 150 is probably coming here sooner than we think here, more than likely. And to me, the tariff situation is pretty much, it's Trump bluffing and pushing. Okay, it's pretty obvious what he's doing. He is pushing these countries to say, you better make a deal or I'm going to do this. And most of them are trying to do that. They're trying to work out. We're still working out deals with China, like a real deal. Now, Europe, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very optimistic that the market will continue just to stagger on this year. The S&P will get back into a 6,000 point range, and we're going to see, a lot of things do better. I do think there will come a moment in time where paths collide here, maybe in June, July, August, when the past tariff situation starts to report itself. Now, like I said, tomorrow we're getting some reports that, are from weeks ago here. So we will see what they say, and it could spell some trouble for the market for the short term. But I'm very optimistic that Palantir will continue to find deals. Palantir will continue to move into this high position with where they are and bringing in revenue. And two, I like when there's a CEO who is very boisterous, who is very out there, who is very in the face, showing his face and in the public and, talking about their company. And I like that Alex Karp does that, and he is that person, because I think it's healthy for the stock. I think it's so good. If you look at some of your biggest companies right now, they have an outspoken CEO who's able to talk about their company, talk about their business in general. Alex, a lot of times when he talks about, when he talks in general, he's not even talking about Palantir. He's just talking about AI. He's talking about where it's going, what it's doing. And yes, he'll incorporate conversation in there with who and what Palantir is. But more than that, he's talking about AI and the position that it's in right now. So, friends, listen, I get everyone's back and forth on Palantir. There's things I agree with 100%. Yes, it's overpriced. We know that. It's been overpriced since it was $50. Okay, you're having to pay to play with what is going on with this situation right now. They're part of the S&P 500. They're going into a lot more ETFs. Palantir is growing money wise. The stock price is not slowing down. It's chipping away at new positions every month here. So I'm very encouraged that Palantir will continue to push into that. Now, I do think there will be a roadblock around 150. The next quarterly will have to present itself to show that Palantir will move into, that 180 position later in the year. If we can hit 180 this year, that is huge. And to me, like, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that's like the mother of all prices. That is like, whoa, that is like, oh my God. For a stock that is not even reporting $1 billion quarterly yet, if we were to hit 180, yes, we would be totally overpriced. Yes, it would be a dangerous position where, Palantir would move to 180, and I think a lot of us would take a lot of profit at that point because it would probably falter back somewhere around 50, 40 easily. I think 130 to 150 could easily be the price range from now until like August with Palantir. 100%. But like I said, I think it's going to take a Q2, Q3 here to really advance into 180 position stock, price-wise position on Palantir. So I'm optimistic that can happen 100%, especially with them continuing to find deals, push these higher quarterlies, and these deals just keep compounding on top of each other. It's just layer after layer after layer of deal. And that's what we're seeing. That's why the quarterlies are increasing so heavily right now. Friends, I wish all of you the best of luck in the market this week. We will talk, see what's going on tomorrow, and have a fantastic day. Bye, everyone.